Good day, everybody. Welcome to today's class on Fusion 360. In our today's class, we are going to be talking about these three operations here. We are going to be talking about the rendering, animation, and 2D drawings. Okay. So first of all, start with how to carry out a render operation in Fusion 360. After that, then we'll talk about animation and 2D drawings. Okay. So I'm going to open up my Fusion 360 design environment. So we'll be using, for this our example, we are going to be using our chess pawn design. So in order to switch to currently, by default, whenever you launch your Fusion software, it opens up the design workspace. So whenever you open or launch your Fusion software, the Fusion automatically opens the design workspace for you, but you can switch to other workspace if you want to carry out another operation. In this example, we are going to be doing the rendering operation. So you can't do that in the design environment. You have to switch over to the render workspace. Okay, and how do you do that? At the top left corner of your Fusion interface, is your what we call the workspace tab. In this workspace tab, you can left click on it to open up the workspace drop down menu and switch in between workspaces that you want. We have several workspaces here. The render is one of them, animation is one of them, drawing is also one of them. So we'll be talking about in this our example, this our online this today's session, we'll be talking about the render, animation, and drawing workspace, or how to use them to generate design. Okay, so for this our render workspace, which is our first example, we are going to switch over to the render workspace. So what does it mean to render or carry out a rendering operation? So render is mainly used to generate realistic realistic views of your design. Okay, it's used to generate realistic images of your design. So currently, this our chess piece that's here. So although it looks real, but this is not how it's going to look in real life. It will have this shape, but it might not necessarily have this color or texture. So in your render, like for instance now, this straight line that is being displayed here, in the real life when we manufacture them, you're not going to have them. This straight line here, all right, this line. So currently, this is as a result of the revolve operation that we carried out. So these were both uh, bodies joined. Okay, that's why we are having this line. All these modify lines, okay, all these modifying lines will not be displayed. These lines that I highlight now in real life they will not be displayed. So they are only you can only see them in the design environment. But when we switch over to the render workspace, it's going to look more realistic. So we use rendering to carry out realistic. We try to carry out realistic creation, realistic or generate realistic images of our designs. So I'm going to switch over back to my render workspace by left clicking on the workspace tab and scroll down to render, which is the third one. I will left click to open up my render workspace. So I'm going to wait for it to load. Okay, fine. You can see those lines are no longer there. So but when you scroll over them, you can view them. Right? See these lines, those design lines, they are no longer there. Okay, these lines demarcate the faces from each other, or something in some cases the body. But here you can see how it looks more. This is what it will look like in real life if you decide to manufacture using this color. Okay, so in the render workspace, you can also apply your color and your physical materials. That is your appearance. In Fusion, the color is called the appearance. The color button is called the appearance. So you can add your appearance, which is the color, which is another name for the color. Your physical material. The physical material is the material you want this to be the material you want your design to be made up of. You can change. In this case, we are going to be using wood material, but you can change it to aluminum. You want to manufacture from aluminum, you want to manufacture using aluminum, you you can change this physical material to aluminium. It will not affect the appearance of your design. So you can apply any paint you want or any color you want to this, but when you add physical materials, the color will still be there. It will not the physical material does not affect the appearance of your design. So the first thing you will do is to add our appearance, and you can activate that using the keyboard shortcut A. So I will go to my setup menu. Here you can see in our render environment we don't have much menus. So we only have the setup tab rather, the in canvas render tab and the render tab. Okay. So this one, the third one, which is the render tab, you can only use it if you are connected to the internet. So if you are connected, you have to check your job status to make sure you are working online. Okay. In my case, I'm currently working offline, so I can't use this option. So remember in our class, in our first class, our first session, I told you that Fusion is a cloud-based software. So whenever you are running any operation, whenever you are trying to do any operation like rendering, animation, not animation, right, simulation, or some some special features like generative design, you can do solve them in the cloud. So rather than using your system processor and your system's properties, your system specifications to carry out those rendering um, or those solving operation, any operation that will require a large computational time and power, instead of loading using your system properties to carry out those operations, so you can send them to the cloud, to the Fusion server. So Fusion will solve it in the cloud and return the answer to you. Okay, so while it's solving it in the cloud, you can be working on a design. You will not be worried about your system capacity or your system not being able to solve the particular problem you're trying to do. In this case, a render. Okay, render is a resource intensive process. So it requires a lot of computational time and resources such as your RAM, your system memory, your processor. So, but if you don't have a high spec system, you don't have to worry. You can use the cloud rendering option to render it in the Fusion Cloud Server, and it's even much more better and accurate because it will also give you more and it provides you with more flexibilities and tools. So that's for this first one. So for the second one, we have the in-canvas render. This is when you want to use your system um, processors or your system resources to solve the render operation. So that's for the second one. Why this is your setup tab. The first tab is your setup tab where you can set up your designs or your render operation, apply your appearance, physical material, and the environment. You can set up the environment too. So we'll go ahead and apply appearance to this our design. So in order to do that, I'll go to my setup drop down menu and click on appearance. That's the second one. You can also activate it using the keyboard shortcut A. So I will select the appearance, wait for it to load. Okay, so appearance. This is our appearance dialog box. So I'm going to add appearance to this model. So I can drag and drop any color I want. You can scroll down to the color to the library, the appearance library, and select any appearance you want. Click on them to open up the drop down there. Add your appearance. Okay, you can do that. Paint, you have paint, glossy or metallic, any of them. All right. So in our design, you can even add a wood appearance. This is walnut. I can drag and drop. So currently, the first option there is apply to. You can select which option you want to apply. Do you want to apply it to the body or do you want to apply to just faces? So currently it's set to apply to body or component. So if I should drag and drop, it's going to apply to the entire body or component. So if I should drag and drop this on the body, you can see it has updated the walnut appearance. I don't like this too dark, so I would use an oak tree appearance. And now, yes, we have something better. So this also works too. So you can also switch to your faces section. Okay, you can say apply to faces and then drag and drop to any face you want. Right, you can drag and drop blue here. So this is perfect. So you can add any appearance you want, either to faces or to bodies. So that's how you add your appearance. Then when you are done, click on close. And by dragging and drop, I mean left click on this color, then drag it. Don't release your left mouse button. Then place it where you want and then release. Okay, that's what I mean by drag and drop. Right. So I'm going to close my appearance tab. And then the next thing is to add the physical material. So currently, despite the fact that I added the walnut appearance to this, let me go back and repeat that. Despite the fact that I added the walnut appearance to this, it does not mean that this material is made up of wood. Oak, okay, sorry, not walnut, oak rather. The oak, oak is a tree. Oak is a tree. So when I apply this appearance, it's going to have the oak appearance. That is, it has going to have a tree-like appearance. So when I add this appearance to it doesn't affect the physical properties of this material. So the physical property could be steel, something like steel or aluminium. Okay, so if I should add this oak appearance, so when you are trying to check the properties in your properties, you will still find out that the material by default is the physical material itself is the one you assigned and not the color. This is just an appearance. Just just like you are applying a color. Even if you are using a wood-like appearance, it's still a color that you're adding. It's like adding a wooden color to your design. So it doesn't affect the physical properties of this design. So if I should close this and go to my bodies under in the browser tab and right click and scroll down to properties. I will left click to activate my properties. When you check your properties, you can see your mass. The mass is 75 gram. The physical material, you can see despite it having a, a wood-like appearance, a wood-like color, the material itself is still steel. So whenever you are trying to manufacture your design, you should be mindful of these parameters. So the material is still steel. So you are telling Fusion that when you want to manufacture this, let's say maybe on a lathe machine, that you want to use a steel material. Okay, so but the appearance is a wooden appearance. So but in this case, we want to change the physical material to wood because we want to manufacture this chest piece from wood. Click and cancel. Then I will go to my physical material button command. I will activate it. So you can add a physical material. So by default, it's set to steel. Okay, Fusion sets the physical material by default to steel. That's what we have here, but you can change that. So I'm going to scroll down to the library and select wood. Okay, I will use oak. No, I don't want oak. I'm going to use sherry. Okay, the appearance is already oak. I want to use another physical material. I'm going to use sherry, drag and drop. Okay, in this one now, you're adding the physical material to the entire body. So you cannot, it's not an appearance that you can add to some faces or not. Okay, so I'm going to click close. Now I have my physical material assigned to it. So but currently it's returning the oak appearance, which is the color. So if I should right click on the body and scroll down to properties and activate it, we are going to see under my physical material okay, under my physical material, you can see my physical material is now sharing, no longer steel. My appearance is still the oak, which is the color I added. And you also have the mass. The mass has reduced significantly. When it was steel, it was at 74 grams or so. But now it has reduced to 5 grams. Okay, so you can see how it really your physical material affects the physical properties of your design. I'm going to click on cancel. So that's how you add physical materials and appearances. So the next thing we'll do is to set up the scene setting. That is to set up the environment of our render workspace because we want to render this. Okay. So all we are doing now is just setting up our model for rendering. Okay. When you are done, you can now go ahead and carry out the rendering operation. So we have a lot of buttons here that you can use to manipulate your design. So one of those buttons under the ground section is your reflection. Okay, it will add a reflection as if you are in a you're as if you're standing on a mirror-like surface or a water-like body. You can see the reflection here. You can see the reflection. So you can use it to add it to look realistic. Let's say you want to place this in a glass house or a flat a glass surface. There is going to be a reflection. So you can use that also. So I'm going to turn this off. Then for the color, this is the currently the background, which is the background we are currently in, is set to color, solid color. So you can change the color by using the color toggling, clicking on the color button to edit it. So currently we have, you can move the cursor to any color you want and click apply. It will change. You can also toggle this, say okay, I want it to be a little more green like, then move it to this side and say apply. Okay, so you can toggle it again to be here or to the side and say apply. All right, so but we want to leave it at the default. So I'm going to take it to this area side and click on apply. So that's how you say, and you say okay. When you are done applying, then you click on okay. So that's how you change the color of your background. So you can also change, let's say you don't want it to be a simple color, you can change it to environment. Okay, when you switch to environment, your color will be deactivated. You now have to go to the environment library to select the environment you want to use. So environment, you have different options. Some of them are studio-like environment, such as this, drag and drop. Just like you apply appearance, that's how you apply your environment. Just drag and drop. So they are like studio-like um, it's like a picture studio. So I'm going to drag and drop this snow feed and let's see what the result will look like. So whenever you drag and drop and you notice some lag, just be a little bit patient and wait for it to load. Okay, so no, I'm not okay with this. So I'm going to use Plaza. Drag and drop the Plaza. Okay, I'll click close. I'm okay with Plaza. Let's try to zoom out. Okay, currently our design is as if it's on the air. Okay, you can see our design is suspended in the air. We don't want it to look like this. It's not realistic. So I want it to be at the floor, at the bottom. I want this flat surface of our chest piece to be positioned at the bottom of this floor, this plaza floor. So how do I do that? You have to go back to your scene settings. Okay. When you are done applying the environment, which is the plaza, you go back to your setting and click on under the ground, click on flatten ground. So I want it to be flat. I will click on this flatten ground. Okay, you can see it will try flatten it currently. Our mode design is very small, so we did not really scale it up. So if I should go back and scale it up, it will be a little bit big. Okay, so this is how you apply appearance to your design. So okay, so you can now go ahead and render. Okay, let's go back to our design environment and try to scale this up. Okay, okay. I think it's even important I teach you how to use the scale up tool. So go to your modify drop down menu if you want to scale up and scroll down to scale. Okay, I will activate it by left clicking on it. So you can either scale your design upwards or you want to shrink it, you can shrink it or you can scale it to be larger than the default. So I'm going to select entity, I'm going to select the body. So the body is selected, the body and pointer have been selected by default. So I want it to, you can change the scale type to non-uniform. That means you want to scale it. If you change it to non-uniform, you have the option to scale it in the X, Y, and Z axis. You might say, okay, you don't want it to be taller, but you want it to be more fat. Okay, you can now drag. You can see you want it to be more fat. Okay, but that would make it on uniform. So I don't want that. So okay, so I want it to be a default, but I want a uniform scale. So I want it to be times 5 or type 5 times 5 of the original design. And we have this. Okay, this 5 now I want it instead of 5, or let's make it 10 times 10. Okay, I'll click on this. Okay. So remember, initially the gram was 5 gram, right? When we check the properties then. So let's check it again and see how many grams we are going to have. Let's check the properties. Right click on the body, you see properties. Currently, it's at 5,000 grams. You can see we've multiplied it 10 times, right? I'm going to click OK. Then I'll go back to my render environment and see how it will look now in the workspace. Okay, you can see it's now much more bigger than it was. So, okay, I'm okay with this. Right? Then you can start use your in canvas render. So we are done setting up your environment. So do you have other option like your decal, like I did in our previous video? I showed you how to use decal. You can decal is just like adding a label or design to your existing geometry. Okay, I showed you in the previous example how we used decal to create the solar panel, the solar panel surface. Okay, this other one we are going to talk about them in our advanced classes. So the next thing we do is to go to the next tab, the canvas render, because you're not connected to the internet, you're not working online. So we can't use the Fusion Cloud server. So we are going to use our computer to try and solve. So in order to do that, you have the in canvas render settings that you can do. You can set up the setting, but just you can also go ahead and click on the in canvas render. Right? It will start generating your rendering operation. Okay, when you look at the bottom part, look at the bottom left, bottom right rather of our render workspace, you can see how the iteration has started. Fusion has started the rendering operation. Okay, so when it's done rendering or it has gotten to the part where you want, or this, especially when it gets to excellent, okay, you can now stop the rendering operation and then go ahead and use your your design visual or graphics, or your design your rendered image, or the rendered image of your design. Okay, so when it's currently is running some iteration, it might not get to excellent, it might get to this point and you're okay with what you have on your screen, or you're okay with the rendered one. You can click on this to stop it. Okay, and then go ahead and use your design, your rendered design. So that's all for rendering. Why the third option is when you want to do on cloud rendering, so you have to be connected to the internet to use that one. So in our advanced classes, we're going to be talking more on this and every other button here. Okay, so I will switch over to my design environment. Okay, before I do that, let me pause this rendering operation. Okay, I think it has stopped. So I will go over to my design environment. Okay, so now the next tool I would like to talk about is our 2D drawing. Okay, before we go over to animation, we're going to talk about the 2D drawing. So let's dive into that. For our 2D drawing, there are several ways, like I said in the class, there are several ways you can create 2D drawings from your model. One of them is to go through the workspace, switch through the workspace and go to your drawing interface. Then you can say create, you have two options to create drawing from your design, which is what we have here, or from the animation. That is when you've created an animation. So, but for in this case, we are going to try and create our drawing from our design. Okay. The other way of creating drawings is to go to your file menu, which is at the top left corner of your screen, and scroll down to new drawing. Okay, you now have the option to create new drawing from design, from animation, or electronics drawing when you have created an electronic component. So in this case, electronics drawing is not active because we have not created any electronics component in the electronics design workspace. Okay, so we are going to be using just one of these. I'm going to be using just one of these, either this one through the file menu or through the design workspace. But for this example, we are going to be working with this drawing. We are going to use the drawing workspace option and create our drawing from our design. So currently, I will click on Ctrl S to make sure my design is properly saved. Okay, okay, you can see it's not the updated version is not saved. I'm going to click save. So our design is now saved. So you always make sure you save your design before you start creating any other thing. So even if you don't save your design and you try and create a drawing, Fusion will prompt you to save the design first. So That saving your design is very important. So the next thing we'll do is to go down to our design workspace, scroll down to the drawing workspace, and select the create drawing from design. Let's click on this to activate it. So whenever you are doing this, you might notice some lag in your Fusion software. Your Fusion software might not be as fast as this one, or it will be taking some time to load. So just be patient. Fusion will I think it respond. It's the speed of of your Fusion response is dependent on the capacity of your system or your PC. So if you have a low capacity PC, if you have a low PC with lower spec or lower memory, lower processor, it's going to take time to load some of these programs. So just be patient and wait for it to load fully. It will surely load. So let's go ahead. Now we've activated our drawing from design. Go to your design, scroll down to drawing and create drawing from design. So when you click on this, you're going to have our drawing dialog box will be open. So you can create automatic drawings. Fusion will generate drawings for you, but in this case, you want to use manual. Okay, so that will show you how to create drawings yourself. So if you use automatic, Fusion will create it for you. You don't have to do any other thing again. You can just modify, remove the ones you don't want, and print out the ones and save the ones that you need. Okay, but I want to teach you how to create drawings on your own. So for the reference, you have three options: full assembly, visible only, or select. So for the full assemblies, if you have more than one component here, or one assembly, you have more than one component under this design. So you can select the full assembly to create drawing for the entire component. But you but for if you switch to visible only, so you are telling Fusion to create drawing for the only design that is visible here. Okay, that's what visible only means. Okay, so if you want to, you have so many components and you want to create, you don't want to create for the entire body, so you can hide others and leave the one that you want to create drawing for, leave it to be visible. Then you now use this visible only option. Okay, then the third one is select. It's also similar to visible, just that in this case you have to select the component yourself. Okay, so if you have more than one component, you can use the select option and select the component that you want. But now we only have one body here, so full assembly will still work for us. So under the destination, we want to create new drawing. Yes, template from scratch. Of course, we want to create from scratch. So you can have a Fusion template or a drawing template that you are using that you can create through by going to your file menu and scrolling down to new drawing template. You can create new drawing template from this. Okay, and then when you want to create drawing, then you now select from the template that you want. Okay, then the standard we want to use ISO is okay. You can switch to American standard of measurement, but for this one, we want to use international standard, which is ISO. The unit, I'm working with millimeter, so I'll use millimeter. So you can switch to inches or other units. Then for sheet size, you have A3, you have A4, we have five from A4 to A0. That is five sheet size. You also have a custom, that is you want to create your own sheet size. You can customize your own sheet size. So in our example, I'm going to change it to A4. Okay. No, I'll use A3 rather. I don't know. I know we scaled up this design. I don't know if it will work. It doesn't really matter. We can also change the scale later on. So I'm going to use A3, yes. So I want the orientation to be in landscape format. So this landscape means that whenever I pull up my sheet size, that is my drawing sheet, it's going to have a landscape format to be positioned like this. The length will be on the horizontal. The longer part will be in the horizontal, while the shorter part will be in the vertical. But if you switch it to portrait, the longer side will be vertical, while the shorter side will be the horizontal. But I want to use the landscape, so by default it's set at landscape. So I'm okay with that. So I'm going to say click on OK and wait for it to load. So it might take a little bit of time to load, so we are going to be patient. Okay, so our design has loaded. So you can place it. Fusion automatically. Fusion will select one view for you. So our sheet is active now. Our drawing sheet. This is our drawing sheet is active. So Fusion will by default will activate one and an orientation for you. So currently, I'll just click left click to place it anywhere you want. So it doesn't matter if you don't like. You can also move it later. So this is the dialog box. Our drawing view dialog box. So I'm okay with this, but I want it to be shaded. Okay, you can select either white or this. This other option with hidden edges, that means whatever either shaded or transparent, you want the hidden edges, that is the edges at the back to be visible. So, but I don't want that. I'm going to select shaded. Okay, so for the edge visibility, I want it to be full length. I want all lines to be fully displayed. So I'm going to click on improve view quality. Always make sure you click on improve view quality so that Fusion will try and give you the best possible color, best possible view. So every other one are not really, you can use, there are so many parameters here you can use to adjust your drawing, your drawing design, but it doesn't really matter. In this example, we will not be talking about them. So you have another important one is your scale. So you can always adjust your scale by putting in the values yourself or manually, or you can use this. You click on this dotted line here to pull up the fusion scale. So you have several scale. You can change it to 8.1:8, meaning that 1 centimeter here is equal to 8 centimeter in real life. So 1 millimeter on paper is equal to 8 millimeter in real life. That's what this scale means. So you can change the scale any way you want. You can see 1:5, which is very big. Okay, so I'll use 1:5 and click on OK. Okay, so our design now, so it's still loading. So let's be a little bit patient. So our design now is now ready. So I remember I told you if you don't like the position, you can drag and move it anywhere you want, place it anywhere you want. Okay, so it's a very simple process. I'm going to leave it here. So in case you want to create other views, let's say the top view, front view, isometric view from this particular design, there's a tool that you can do that with. So how do you what tool do you use and how do you do that? You go to your create drop down menu, click on create drop down menu, and you select the projected view. So you are trying to project these views into other view. Okay, so I will left click on this to select it, or you can select it at the top of your toolbar here, or use the keyboard shortcut P to activate it. I'll click on projected view. It's now active. You left click on the design you want to project. I'll left click on this one, then I'll drag it down. Now you have your top view. Okay, I'll left click again to place it there. If I move to this edge or this edge, if I move to this edge, I have the side view or the front view. So our model is symmetric. That's why both front and side is looking as if they are the same. Okay, when you have more complex geometries, you get a better understanding of the difference between the front view and the side view. So I'm going to place this here, assuming this is our side view. So I will place this one here. This is the isometric view. So when I click to place it, I now click on this check mark, mean that I'm okay with my result. You can use this go back, revise to the previous option. So you can see it has revised to the previous option. So you can see you can use it to revise to the previous option. So I'll click here and also come here and click here. So I'll click the check mark when I'm done. Okay. Now I have four views. I have four views already. Three of them were projected from this original front view. Okay, assuming this is front and this is side. Okay. Currently, it's still loading. Okay, our Fusion is still loading. Let's see. Okay, I think it's done loading now. All right, so I think you can edit them. You can also edit them individually. So I only want the isometric view to be shaded. You can also change others. You can change others by double clicking on them and open up it will pop up the drawing view of that particular one. So you can change it to this. Okay, I want it to be visible. I want it to be transparent. I'll use visible. So I'll click, I'll close. Okay, you can also do that for this. I will double click to open up the drawing view dialog box, and okay, I will change it to visible edges. Then I'll click on close. I'll repeat that for this front edge. I'll double click and change it to visible edges under the style. Okay, and you know, if you notice something, because I changed this is the original one that I generated every other thing for. I projected every other views from this particular one. So when I change this to visible, there is no way you can have a shaded view for every other one, because it's assuming that the parent view that you generated your view from is transparent, so others will reflect that. Okay, so I'm going to click close. So let's try and change this one because we want this one to be shaded. Okay, if it doesn't work, you can do it manually. If I will click on shaded and close, okay, you can change it to shaded. So this is how you create your views. This is how you project views. Okay, but in this case, you might decide no, you don't want to project. Okay, your model might be too complex and you don't want to project, but you want to do it individually. You can do that also. So you can click on this and delete. Click on this and delete. Click on this and use your delete button on your keyboard to delete them. So I want to add them individually. So you don't want to use your project view command. So you can do that also. And in order to do that, you go to your create drop down menu and select the base view, which is the first one there. Let's click to activate it and then add your base view. So by default, it's set to the front view. So let's click to place it there. Then I'll have to adjust each parameters individually to match what we have here. So that's the disadvantage. Any other thing you want to do, you have to put in the parameters individually. Remember, for the scale, we used 1:5 for this one. So we are going to change it to update it to 1:5 for this one. Okay. Currently set to front, we are going to change it to right, indicating the side view. Okay. Then for the edges style, we are going to use visible edges, and edge visibility for the tangent edges we use full length. Okay, I think that's all we need. I'll click OK. Okay, so now we have this. All right. So if you want to do for other edges, let's say we are going to do for the top view and the isometric view. So I'm going to do the top view here and do the isometric view here. Okay, so you can do that. Okay, individually. The base view, you go to the create menu and select your base view. You can also select it at the top of your toolbar here to activate it. I will place it here. This is where I want to place my top view. I will change the orientation to top. Okay, I will change the style to visible edges. Then for the tangent edges, I'll select full length. You can select any length you want depending on the result you are looking for. Then I'll use the 3 edge here and change it to 1:5. So click OK. You can also input the value manually if you want. I'll click OK. Okay, so we have 3 views now. It's remaining one, the isometric view. We also select the base view, activate it, and place it here. I'll change the orientation to home, making it isometric. Okay, so you can also there's also isometric option here. You have the southwest. Okay, you have the northeast. Okay, but I'm going to use home. So I'll use this in this option. I'm going to change it to shaded. Okay, because it's the isometric view. I want it to be shaded. I will click the improve view quality. You only have the improve view quality option when you're using shaded. It's trying to improve the quality of the colors you added to your design. So for the scale, I'm going to select 1:5, the same scale for all of them. Then for tangent edges, full length. Then click OK. So our drawing is still loading. Wait for it to load. Okay, so we have the 4 views that we want. Okay, so for those especially those engineering students, when you look at the bottom left corner of our of our drawing sheet, you find this here, what we call the title block. Some of you who have done TD in secondary school or engineering drawing for engineering students, you know what this means. This design here is called the title block. Okay, this is your title block where you have information regarding your design and you can edit them. Okay, you can even draw new title block. You can change this one, you can delete this one. So how do you do that? Just hover around it. Okay, when you hover around it, it will highlight, or you click on it, okay, to select it, and then left click. When you left click, you have the option to create new title block or edit this existing title block or edit the properties, that is the properties inside. You have the option to edit it. So when you select that, you can edit the title block to any shape or form that you want. Okay, so we've talked about create, the two most important tool here in the create tab. Okay, we've talked about this. You have your modify tool to move around this, or you can do it manually. You can do it manually. You don't really need to. Okay, sorry, let me undo that. Okay, why did I think I deleted this by mistake? Okay, so okay, it's there, yeah, it's there. So you can move it manually. Okay, so you have those modified tools to do that: move, rotate, okay, and delete. That's what we have. That's this modified tool. Or that's if you want to move it. Let's say you want to calculate, you want it to move at a straight line or at a specific dimension. You can use your move tool to do that. You want it to rotate, you can use the rotate button. You want to delete, you can use the delete button. So that's all for the modify tab. Okay, for this geometry tab is for you is for applying some special features to your drawing. So in the geometry and the symbols tab, we're going to talk about them in our advanced classes. So these three tabs, we'll talk about them in our advanced classes. Okay. So when we are doing our animation, which is the next example we are going to do, I'm going to show you how to insert tables or part list in your design, and I'll show you how to export. Okay. Then, but for this example, I'm going to show you how to use the I'm going to show you for this example, I'll show you how to use the text and the dimensions. Okay. So we've already talked about this, create and modify. All right. So if you want to add text to your drawing, let's say you want to put in an information that the entire dimensions are in millimeter. Okay, because when you add dimension using the dimension tool, all the tools here are called dimension tools. They are all dimension tools to add any dimension you want. You have the diameter dimension, you have the radius dimension to add radius. Okay, let's select the dimension. If you ask, they also have the generic dimension tool, which does the function of most of the things you have here. So let's select the dimension tool, then I will click on this. Okay, select, click on it and drag it out to play, click again to place. Okay, so you are not creating new dimension, you are just displaying the dimension that you've already imputed in your design. Okay, let me repeat that. Whenever you are applying dimension in your drawing, you are not really creating new one. You are actually displaying the dimensions that you applied in your drawing design when you are designing those models. Although you can edit them and modify them, but they will not reflect the actual dimensions in your design if you change them. Okay, but currently they are reflecting the actual dimension in our design. But if I should go ahead and edit this dimension, if I should go ahead and edit this dimension and impute, let's say 260, in our drawing, the current width diameter of this flat surface is 260 millimeter. But if I should edit this now and change it to 180, say it's signifying that it's now 180 millimeter. And now when you go back to our drawing, our design workspace, it's see 260. So you don't when you change modify or edit the dimension here, it does not affect the dimensions in your design workspace. Okay. Currently, you are just displaying the dimension. Okay. So click, drag, and click again to place. So that's how you apply dimensions in this design environment. Okay. You can click two lines. Okay. I'm going to click from here. I want the entire height. Okay. I'll click and place. All right. You can do that. Click on one point. Okay. Click on the other point. then drag it out and click again to place it. That's how you add the height. I want that's how you know the entire height of this design. So this our chest piece has the height of 503.86 millimeter. That's approximately 504 millimeter. That's about 50 cm. So you have other dimensions options. So the dimension, the first one we selected is the generic dimension. You can use it to add both length, diameter, radius, any of them. But you have special dimensions if you want to measure angles and every other. For align, you have your angular dimension to apply angle and every other dimension. So let's use diameter dimension and apply a diameter to this line, this outer line. Okay, you have the diameter is 260 millimeter. So let's use the radius dimension and see the difference. Okay, I want to the same outer line again. The radius is 130 millimeter. So you can see 130 times 2 is 260. So that's how you use your dimension. So you have every other dimension that you can try out. Okay. So in our advanced classes, we'll be talking about more of them like chain dimensions, flip, break, dimension break, and the rest. So I want to talk about, before we move over from this example, I want to talk about the text, how to add text. Okay. Now advanced classes, we'll talk about leader note and thread note for your models that have a whole design or a whole feature. You can use the whole thread note to apply them. Then for this one, I want to talk about how to apply text in your design. It's a very simple process. So I will left click on the text command to activate it. Then I will create a box, a text box for the text, the same way you do it in your sketch environment. I will left click, hold, drag it, and then click again. All right. So let me repeat that process. I'll close it. Then I'll activate the text, like left clicking, then click on one part, then drag. You can release your mouse, then drag, then click on it again to create the text box. I will type in my text, all dimensions in millimeter. Okay, so my text is now added. So if you want to edit this, like adding bold and every other thing, it will not reflect currently. So in order to, if you want it to reflect, you have to highlight it. Okay, then now apply your boldness. Now it's now bold. You want it to be at the center, align at the center. You want to change the height, let's say 5 millimeter. Okay, you can see it has updated. When you are done, you click on close. Okay, when you are done, click on close. So you can also move it just like the drawings, you can move them. In this case, I want to place it here. I'm trying to tell them that every dimension here is a millimeter. Okay, so this is how you create your drawing, you convert your models into drawings. So you can export them now as PDF. So if you want to export them, you go to the last tab here, which is the export tab. So click on it and you see export as PDF. You can export as DWG. You can export sheet as DXF, and you also can export as CSV. That is I think this is an Excel format. Okay, so we are going to export it as PDF. So you want to export your drawings. I'll click on export. You see, you can see all sheets. So currently, we are in the first sheet. Where this is a single component. Okay, if you have multiple components, you might end up creating more sheets for this your design. Now, in this case, you can click add new sheet. Okay, you create another design, another drawing for another component. You click add again. You create another drawing for another component. Okay, but in this we only have one component, so you only work with one sheet. Okay, so you can right click on it to delete them if you don't want them. Okay, so currently it's set to one sheet. So when you click on export as PDF, you have the option to export all sheets as PDF, or the current one that is currently active, which is this one, the one displayed on the screen. So I'll click on current, or you select the sheet, number of sheets you want, and click on selected sheet, or use a range. Okay, so I'm going to use current sheet, which is this one. Then you can turn on the open PDF. That is, after exporting, you want it to open the PDF immediately, or you can check it out. Then after export, you now go to your file explorer to open the PDF. I want it to open immediately, it exports. I'll click OK. So it's going to export our PDF. So it wants us to save, first of all, save this our drawing. Remember what I told you, if you don't save your file, Fusion will always want to want you to save it before it carry out any of the next operation. So I'm going to save it as chess drawing. Chess, sorry, chess drawing. Okay, you can click on save to cloud. Okay, you can select the location. Okay, it's currently checked to save to my computer. So you select the location on your computer where you want it to be saved. Okay, you know how to do that. So click on save. So it's going to save and open the file for me. Okay, so that's how you create your drawing. So while it's Fusion is saving that, we can switch over to our next example. So currently it's loading. Okay, this is my, I think, PDF viewer. This is using Microsoft Edge to view the PDF. Okay, you can see our drawing now. You can see our drawing has been fully exported. Okay, so this is how you create your drawing. You convert your models into drawing and you can export them. So I'm going to close that and go back to our design, Fusion design workspace. So for the next and last example, I think the last thing we'll discuss in this class is the animation. The animation, we've talked about rendering, we've talked about 2D drawing. So we are going to talk about animation. Okay, and though I don't think we will go deep. We are not going to dive deep into how to use animation fully. I want to show you how to use it to create exploded view and also use that exploded view to create drawings also. So that's why we're going to talk about animation. So I'm going to open my Fusion. For this example, I'm going to import a file from my from my file explorer, from my window explorer rather. So I'm going to open a new file. I'm going to open the file from my computer. I'll scroll down to the file that I want. Okay, I want this utility knife. I'll click open, select it and click open. So wait for it to load. Okay, so our utility knife is now open. Okay, so this is a utility knife that you can use to carry out any code. For those engineering students, I think should be familiar with this knife, or those who have worked in the workshop. Okay, so even the joints have been added. Okay, so let's switch over to the animation workspace and carry out an exploded view of our model or design. You can see this particular design have several components. You have your blade component, you have the blade cradle, you have your left body, you have the right body, you have the grip, which is this one, and the second grip, which is this one. Okay, so you have several components here. So I will go to my animation interface, animation workspace, and activate the animation. Okay, wait for it to load. So this is your animation timeline where any operation you carry out in the canvas will be recorded there, and you can now use it to create an animation video of your design. For instance, if I should set this to, let's say, 6 seconds, and I try to change the camera view of this. Let's say yes, I move it. Okay, do a little touch up, and I try to go back. Let's go back and play this. Okay, and click on play. You can see how it moves. So by just adjusting the camera view, I've created a little animation on. I've created a kind of a short animation video of this model. So you can use this to create an animation video of how you want this a short video of or a short video display of your design. You can create you are trying to show how to use this tool. You can zoom in, do a little bit of touch up here. Okay, I can't even move this component here in the animation workspace. Okay, I have to use transform. So you can move this back and forth, then turn again, move this, show your display your model like this, and then come back again. then set it back to home. When you export the video, it's going to create a video that goes in that direction that you want. Okay, but in this class, we are not going to deal on animation. We are not going to deal on creating. We are not going to work on creating an animation video. So our major focus will be on creating exploded views. Okay, so for the exploded, how do you do that?